So the whole purpose, single aim, defeat a single government policy.
Correct.
Well, that's right, because if Tony Abbott does not win the next election, he won't hold on to the Liberal Party.
But don't you think if he was to win the election, the people would say, look, there's a couple of other odd jobs you
a
can do for us while you're there.
You might want to talk about along the way. I think
Well,
he's
politicians are about winning elections.
But he's having quite sort of premature premonitions of his political mortality, given where he's sitting in the polls. But I think what he's looking at is that it will be difficult for him when he has to switch to positive, because he's made a whole lot of promises along the way that are very, very difficult to add up, including his direct action policy and his tax cuts and repealing the mining tax and repealing the carbon tax. If you put that all together, it adds up to an enormous cut in government spending. And then there's a valid question, is it the right time to be cutting enormous amounts out of government spending when sections of the economy is weak? Now, when he gets up to talking about all of that, it's going to be difficult for him. But, you know, right now you've got to say he's in a pretty strong position.
Look, I think it was a genuine, spontaneous expression of the all-consuming commitment that he's made to fighting. This is the be-all and end-all. And there's a danger there. One thing Gerard mentioned earlier about small business. Small businesses screaming out for help and assistance because not getting that much from this government. And Bruce Bilson is doing a pretty good job as a shadow minister, but you never hear from him, because unless you're talking about carbon tax and maybe occasionally about asylum seekers, the Abbott opposition doesn't want you speaking out. It's as simple as that.
As a result, though, partly perhaps of that, consumer confidence is down, the retailers are taking the hit now. Does Tony Abbott take some of the responsibility? There's a whole bunch of things going on, right? World affairs is troubling people, the hung parliament, the negativity that's around.
Well,
what's
the big
contributor?
You hear people writing about, you know, the two-speed economy, and you hear the Prime Minister and the Treasurer talking about it, and what you saw this week was sort of WUMP, the very, very graphic demonstration of what this two-speed economy looks like. Mining companies going absolutely gangbusters whilst everybody else puts their wallets and purses back in their pockets, you know, retail going under enormous pressure. I mean, the David Jones results this week were just terrifying, you know, and that gives you a flash of just how differently different businesses and companies in this economy are responding.
Also, there's a very hostile feeling to the government in the community. It's showing up in the polls, and as a historian looking back, this has happened on two occasions in the 20th century. 1931, when it was resolved when the Labor Party split and 6 Labor people crossed the floor. 1975, it was resolved when supply was blocked and the Governor-General dismissed the Labor government. This time, there doesn't seem to be any resolution to this, and we're looking at 2 more years of this, but there's a huge degree of frustration, and it's very much among those people whose jobs are less secure and who have less education than the others, and they're angry. And I can understand why they are, and I don't know how you can resolve it.
Well, if uncertainty is the problem, or one of the problems it seems to be, then where does that leave Tony Abbott? Because in 2 years' time he wins an election and then spends a few years unpicking the carbon tax. I mean, it's kind of a pretty unprepossessing scenario, whichever way.
There's another historical example here. Robert Menzies won in 49 and he forced the double dissolution election in 51 and he got everything through for the next 6 years. Tony Abbott can take a double dissolution. He said he would, and why wouldn't